Hi, this is Dr. Bob Hieronymus, and we have some great things to show you today. We'll be right back. We just saw a piece of work which I know nobody in the world is interested in buying, but at the same time makes a statement that I needed to make to keep my sanity, because I saw this going on, that is in regards to the last piece on Monsanto, and I thought to myself, I can't do anything about this, but at least I want to go on record and saying I'm against it. I'm against this. I don't like this. I don't want this to happen. Now, you can use symbols also for something very positive, because once upon a time, I was asked with a group of artists, they wanted to do a show at the Jewish Community Center, and they wanted to do a show that dealt with doors and keys. And when I thought of doors, I always thought of the doors of perception. And of course, that's Aldous Huxley. And I also was thinking that through the doors of perception, we can elevate consciousness and we can elevate awareness by using symbols, because what I was trying to do was accomplish something that I had thought of years ago, but didn't necessarily want to do the painting of it or the drawing of it, because I didn't like necessarily to keep on doing structured things. We have a very structured piece here. This particular work is called the Perennial Philosophy. Perennial Philosophy is basically about the basic likenesses of all religions in the world. I'll give you an example. Do unto others. There is not a single major religion on the planet today that does not say that doing unto others is key. Do unto others as you would want them done to you. It's the middle road. It's balance. It's keeping balance that is really important. And balance is very important in symbols. So when I took a look at 3 different symbols of 3 major religions and wanting symbolically to bring them together into one, I analyzed the symbols of the cross, of the 6-pointed star, and of the moon and the 5-pointed star. And this is what I learned 35 years ago. It took 35 years to be able to do this particular work. And that's this. If you analyze each and every one of these symbols, they will tell the same story. The cross. What do we have in a cross? You have a vertical line and a horizontal line. The vertical line is always the sunlight coming down. It is the masculine male spirit coming down from the sun into the physical world. The physical world is Mom. It is the horizon. It is the horizontal line. It's the coming together. It's the union of the masculine energy with the feminine energy, which basically, as it is, it's a balance. It's balancing masculine and feminine energies. And that's the key to raising consciousness. It's the key to becoming one people on one planet. So you have union, you have peace when these 2 symbols come together and unite. Now, when you take the 6-pointed star and you get into symbols of interpreting there, you have the upright triangle. Always has been a symbol for fire, the masculine energy. The inverted triangle was always a symbol for water. When the upright and the inverted triangle come together to form the 6-pointed star, you have exactly the same story that you had with the cross. The masculine and the feminine coming together in balance and in harmony. When you take the crescent and the star, you have the same story, the same important story, which is balance. The lunar aspect is the feminine. The star aspect is again the solar, the masculine energy. They too come together. Now in this particular piece, what I've done is I've interwoven in the very, very heart here, you have a 6-pointed star, right? Yeah, right there with 13 other stars here. This was literally, this particular symbol here was taken off of the first Great Seal of the United States in 1782, in which we had 13 6-pointed stars, that created a 6-pointed star. Later on, they changed it to 13 5-pointed stars. If you take a look at the Great Seal, that is, you pull out a $1 bill, you look at the front side of the Great Seal, up above the eagle's head are all 13 5-pointed stars in the 6-pointed star pattern. What you have here then is really the heart of America, this balance. Is this being Jewish? No, not necessarily. Is this being Christian? No, not necessarily. Is this, of course, when we get to the Islamic, is that? No, it's also symbol in other countries as paradise. This is a symbol for paradise. The lunar and the crescent coming together. I mean, lunar and the 5-pointed star coming together. So we have in the center, the key, you have 4 crosses here. You have a whole cross pattern here. And in the externals, the 4 different corners, because this is the material world symbolically at the same time, this squareness. You have the energy of the Islamic energies feeding into the Christian and the Jewish. And basically what you have is you have a story all about the perennial philosophy. All things are one, all people are one people, one planet, and most importantly of all, inner peace by balance of the masculine and feminine energies. And this is very old philosophy. Again, nothing I'm saying is new. All this is like thousands of years of old. This is the kind of stories that we were given in through various secret societies all over the world, which is, if you want balance, if you want to keep everything in balance, you must have male-female. The United States of America did a pretty good job in establishing a republic, a representative form of government, but we messed up in 2 very important ways. Very important ways. Number 1, we are not told who really influenced the Founding Fathers throughout history. In recent years it's changed, but we were not told the input of the League of the Iroquois Indians, the 5 and later 6 Indian nations in upstate New York who actually formed a republic, a representative form of government, maybe 1100 A.D. This is long before Christopher Columbus happened to stumble upon almost America, because he really didn't get to America. You know where he got to. He got down there in the Caribbean. Now, when you take a look at that kind of philosophy of bringing things in balance and together, this most important teaching from the League of the Iroquois, and who were the real power, who was the real power within the League of the Iroquois or the Cherokee Nation or some of the other, the women. The women were key. They were everything. They were the individuals that voted in the chiefs. They voted them out. They were in control of all the physical things. That is, they owned, no one owned the land, but they were the people that owned the tents, and they owned everything that was physical. They owned that except for the clothes of the male and his few possessions. They didn't have many possessions. Our founding fathers were told by the League of the Iroquois chiefs when they came in to speak during our Congress. I mean, we've documented this. This is a fact. This isn't a maybe, like Rush Limbaugh would like to tell you this is a bunch of crap. It isn't a bunch of crap. We got the documentation, and everyone knows it. Even George Bush, the first George Bush, agrees with this. Which is, I don't think Rush Limbaugh would like that very much. However, when you take a look at the possibilities of what this really means in regards to balance, that means as we move into this new millennium, women need to take their rightful place. They should have done that a long time ago. We know that. But we also know that patriarchal religions prevented that. And that was really one of the great harms. The other second great harm that the Native Americans were trying to teach our founding fathers about was slavery. They said you can't have it. If you have slavery, sooner or later it's going to come back and it's going to destroy you. It's going to tear you to pieces. You can't have it. But of course our founding fathers were not strong enough to eliminate slavery. Women's suffrage didn't come along for hundreds and some other years later on. But that's not necessarily what the League of the Iroquois or the Cherokee or other Native American groups have learned. Without this balance, you fall into imbalance, and with that, you become what America has become, which is literally a nation of military might, which, unfortunately, thinks that through its military might it will persevere and continue. It won't. It won't. When America was attacked in 2001, well, unfortunately, well, let's say fortunately, the rest of the world was on our side. The rest of the planet was. It was our reaction to that attack. And there were so many things that were hidden about 9/11 that we'll never really know the truth. It's kind of like the murder of JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King, etc., etc., etc. It's going to take a long time to get to the truth, especially in regards to the Pentagon. How they fit a plane that size in that small hole in the Pentagon wall is impossible. It's not possibly done. I don't know what they did there or how they did it, but we are not being told the truth about that 9/11. And that's going to come back to haunt us later on. We're certainly not going to find out by the people that were, the families that were suffered under that, because of the deals that were cut in Congress, which if you take any money from us, you got to shut your mouth about any of these other problems and inconsistencies that you see as to what was going on. So you can take symbols then and tell the basic story. Now this piece of work might sell, whereas the other piece is not possible. But I had to do this anyway because I wanted to contribute to what other group of artists were doing and thinking a number of years ago. And that was basically to say there is a way to inner peace. There is a way to peace. Peace really begins in here. We all know that. I don't know why it's a big surprise to a lot of people that if we aren't peaceful internally, being able to bring peace physically to a country or a city or whatever is very difficult, if not possible, because we learn by looking at our leaders what they do, and then we imitate or we support or we either, as I said, imitate, support, or we reject what they basically say. But within the last 8 years, we did not have a chance to object to anything. When we had a president who was voted in such a way that I doubt both elections, that's problematic, of course. But most importantly, his interest in the Constitution was practically nil. You have an individual here who really did not know much about our Constitution and did many unconstitutional things, as we're beginning to find out. So as far as the perennial philosophy goes, balance, masculine and feminine, is the key to higher consciousness, inner peace, which then gives birth to external peace. Let me come back. I want to show you something else that actually moves through space as it changes your consciousness. Well, as we talked about the apocalypse a little earlier, I'm going to go into some detail on it, but I want to give you a kind of an introduction to this, because this is a mural that I did at Johns Hopkins University that I was asked to do by Dr. Chester Wickwire. Dr. Chester Wickwire is one of the great inspirations to many, many people at Johns Hopkins University, especially in the area of service and helping others. And that's where he and I bonded so many years ago in '66 and '67. I had several exhibits at Johns Hopkins University, and he kept saying to me, "Bob, you know, I got a wall upstairs that I would love for you to paint." And I said, "Well, okay, I'd like to do that sometime." But at that time, I was getting ready to do record album covers with Elektra Records. And how that happened basically was, you may have heard of Judy in Disguise by John Fred and his Playboy Band. Sold 6 million copies. They were on top of the world, but they hated it. They said, "We don't want to be bubble gum music types. We want to move up into the big time." And as far as they were concerned, they didn't want to have a record album cover that had their faces on it. They wanted to have symbols on it. So they asked me to do their record album cover. Well, when I went up to New York with the idea of my record album cover, the guys there at Elektra said to me, "Bob, They're a one-hit wonder. They're not going to go anywhere. You're with the wrong people. What you need to do is you need to be with Jimi Hendrix. You need to meet Jim Morrison right away, because Jim Morrison needs to talk with you. And I said, why does he need to talk with me? He said, well, Jim Morrison can see through his fingers. And I said, Jim Morrison can see through his fingers. Now, it's not that I don't believe that that can happen, but I didn't think necessarily that Jimmy could have done that. So I said, hey, well, that sounds fantastic. And they said, okay, all right. You go visit these people. You spend time with them. Sometimes you'll introduce them at different events, but consider them instead of John Fred and his Playboy band. Well, that's when I came back home and I realized, no, I don't want to hang out with these guys. I spent a little time with them. It's not that they weren't nice people, and it's not that I didn't enjoy it, but at that particular time, I did not want to be out of my studio, because my studio was my temple. My temple was the place where I got my best ideas, not on the road. So Chester said to me, what about now, Bob, now that you're back from New York? And I said, yep, this is it. I'm going to do it now. I started designing this particular mural in 1968. I didn't begin it until August 25th, 1968. I completed it exactly 6 months later. Now, there was a lot of problems with this particular mural, especially one particular wall. It's 2,700 square feet, the entire piece. It's not just one wall. It is 2 rooms, that is a stairwell, and another longer room, 2,700 square feet. And the most important wall that got me into trouble with the faculty and with the wives of the faculty and with everybody else was this wall that you see right here. Because, and here's a close-up right here, the problem that I was having back in 1968 and 67 was my dreams. My dreams were horrendous. I was seeing things that I didn't want to see. I was seeing dead bodies everywhere. I was seeing laying them in water, upside down. They were children, they were older people, and these dreams just never went away. They were all about death. And I thought to myself, what's my soul trying to tell me? What are my dreams really here all about? And the answer came quickly. We're going to have some mega earth changes, big earth changes, weather changes. And I said, well, why? What's going on here? And internally, what I learned was the corporate structures, especially of this country, and you cannot see all the detail in here, but I'm going to tell you what's hanging in this eagle, because what you've got in this story here is this. You have an eagle, a brown eagle. The eagle is going down. It has a crack in one wing. Water is pouring in. Fire is pouring in. Where? Statue of Liberty, New York. Where? San Francisco. There's their bridge right there. What I was saying was, across the United States, from the east to the west coast, we're going to have big changes. And these changes are going to change literally how we live in the future. That's why I thought this mural was indeed so important. And here you have the eagle. The eagle is going down. It has in front of it a bear. That's Russia. You have a story here about Russia and America coming together to fight against something else, something much larger, something more powerful. Well, what is that thing that it's fighting? It is a serpent. See this serpent here? Green serpent. Inside the serpent, you will see 5-pointed stars, upside down, turned upside down. You will see the number 666 in there. Well, there are different levels of interpreting these things. And I'm not talking about 666 of the mark of the beast. I'm not talking about the book of Revelations here. I'm talking literally about 2 countries, America and Russia, having to come together against a world-class power, which is going to give us much trouble. My feeling was in 1968, it was probably going to be Red China, the dragon. That's why we use the serpent here. The dragon is fighting literally the bear. America's had it. It's going down. What brought it down? When you take a look side of the body, you will see the symbols for General Motors. Why would General Motors be brought into into the dying eagle because of what General Motors represented, and that is the combustion engine. Oil. That thing which has ended up putting us, especially in the last 8 years, in such great difficulty that we may have some severe problems in being able to continue our regular, normal kind of existence. So you have literally not just General Motors, but you look in there and you'll see Chiquita. What is Chiquita? United Fruit Company. Our friends in the United Fruit Company going down into Central America and South America and literally trying to out certain governments. And this still continues. It still goes on. Another corporate power literally, which gives us, and that's the reason why I used to wear all these Chiquita banana stickers and I put them all over the place, which would allow me, when I put them on my forehead and someone else say, hey, you got a Chiquita sticker on you, what's that all about? And they think it's about bananas. And then I tell them it's about United Fruit Company. And that was a way by which I would be able to talk about it. Who else is in there? Well, you will see very closely, not just General Motors and Chiquita, but Mom. Mom. Being attached to our moms. Being like children. Acting like children. You know, when you take a look, if you were in Europe and you were looking at America today, as our friend Sir George or anybody else would tell you, they don't look at us the way we think they're looking at us. They're looking at us as we're acting like children. We need to grow up. There are more important things to work out. But there's a lot of hope here now, and that is this. You see above the eagle? It's a purple eagle. It's rising. This is the phoenix. America is being reborn. The world, literally, the physical world that it literally is dominated and polluted like no one else, is dying. And it's being reborn and moving up into the ceiling. Now, that's central to the key of the apocalypse. Down here you'll see Aquarius on this field, right here pouring the energies of the water by which all of this activity is going on. And even though there are multiple levels of symbols of going all the way from Egypt, Atlantis, Lemuria, and ancient America and the United Kingdom, all kinds of other stories are involved in it, but this is the key to the apocalypse, and basically is our nation is being reborn. And it's going to be mighty difficult to see it in this situation. We're no longer going to be the top dog, and I think the reason why we lost top dogship was the way we handled our power. Our karma is such that we are just not the kind of nation that was given birth by our founding fathers. We have changed into this very nation that we were born at by Alexander Hamilton, especially Thomas Jefferson. Be careful of those corporate structures. When Eisenhower left office in 1960, he told us his greatest concern. And what was it? It had all to do with the military-industrial complex. He knew who really was in control of our country and where our country was going into. He made that statement in 1960 and became almost persona non grata with the corporate powers from that day on, because he had pointed out something that they didn't want any attention paid to. And that is, when you have a corporation that literally is in control and has chances of voting on things, then you really got another monarchy on your hand, in a different kind of way, in the sense that literally they are in control of our entire planet, and what we got to do, and we are doing, is eventually trying to find our way back, all the way from Tibet to Israel, to you name it, all over our planet. We have this serious problem now of trying to recreate harmony and balance, because after that last 8 years of W, we are finding ourselves in a situation in which we need rebirth and regeneration. And I do not believe that the fundamentalists understand that it's not to do with one religion. This nation was not founded as a Christian nation. There's a lot of propaganda out on that. All of the founding fathers, many of them were Christian. They're either deists or one or the other, but they all feared one religion because they knew what one religion did to the rest of the planet, as far as Tycho Brahe Sir Isaac Newton and everybody else that literally were trying to look up in the stars and say, hey, look, if we look through a telescope, we're going to see blemishes on the sun. Oh, no, that's terrible. If there are blemishes on the sun, that meant to these fundamentalists that God wasn't perfect. Therefore, kill the telescope. Kill the person who created the telescope. Don't allow them to look into telescopes. You know that old story a long time ago, which there were a group of scientists and religious type people together, and they were discussing how many teeth are in a horse's mouth. They would say basically, well, I think they're 36. Well, I think they're 40. Then somebody said, look, hey, why don't we count? Why don't we open it up and take a look? Well, that was verbatim. That was considered to be, no, you can't do that. You have to go on your faith, on your trust. Well, obviously, there's certain things that doesn't work well with. And as we take a look at what's left of our environment, that's literally what this mural was about. We have literally put ourselves in a situation where in order to be reborn is going to be very painful, and somehow we're going to have to wrest control from corporate structures so that they don't have a chance to vote, because when they vote, what they do is the same kind of thing Monsanto wants to do. They literally want to take over the entire business. An agribusiness, which in this country only grows five different vegetables. What's happening with all the other vegetables? Well, agribusiness is not paying much attention to them because they don't sell. That's really the key to that. So the apocalypse is not the end of the world. It's a rebalancing. It's coming together and trying to understand how in the world are we going to work out the rest of the karma. Are we going to go to war again? This is not saying that we're going to go to war again. What it's basically saying is that somehow we're going to get our act back together, and through prayer. Well, that's the show for today, and I'm Dr. Bob Hieronymus, and we'll see you next time.